Hello, I'm Rob,
And I'm Rob.
and we've got another conversation about another video game.
Yes.
What is it today?
Today is Project Cars number 2, or Project Cars 2 to give it its proper title, because it's not number 2, it is just Project Cars 2. If you are going to play this game, first up is a public service announcement from me. Get yourself a steering wheel, okay? Don't play this game with your controller. You can
Pedals
play
as
it.
well. Pedals as well,
No,
though, not
pedals
just the
as well.
steering wheel.
Pedals as well. Yeah, you can play this game with your with your controller, right? That is a viable option, and it can work, and you can get used to the controls and everything like that. But as we'll get into this game, you'll understand why I say get yourself a steering wheel if you're going to play this game, or at least if you're going to take this game seriously. And this game kind of deserves to be taken seriously. Now, this is the second game in the Project Cars franchise from Slightly Mad Studios, and it's released from Bandai Namco, and it's out on PC and PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now, I played the PS4 version, and first up is this game has menus, and they have menus and menus and menus, and there is all sorts of customization in this game. You can tweak all sorts of things, and some of them are very, very helpful in the way that you can tweak them, especially with the car setup and everything like that. And you can basically customize the car setup to your needs, to your driving style. It's very, very technical in the way it approaches this. It's almost like the F1 game from Codemasters in how
That is
it
the nature
approaches
of the
that.
beast, though, now, isn't it, when it comes to this class of racer?
Kind of, yeah, and kind of no. There are two sides to the racing coin. There are what I like to call arcade races, which is where you sit down, you basically drive. So stuff like Grid, stuff like Daytona USA, stuff like Sega Rally, and stuff like that. They're all arcade races. You know, they pick up and play games, and you can just race. You don't need to worry about tuning the car or anything like that. You basically just drive, right? And then you got your technical races. So stuff that's more like Forza, F1, and Project Cars, and Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo is one of those games where it's got it's got elements of arcade racer in there, but it's more of a technical racer on the back end.
F1 it was the first technical racer, actually, Gran Turismo.
Yeah, F1 is a pure technical racer.
Well, the first commercial technical racer.
Yeah, F1 is a pure technical racer. Everything is about the technique and the technicalities and the technology. That's what I mean by technical racer, right? Project Cars, it's kind of aiming at the Gran Turismo market, at the Forza market, and they've got 180 cars to back up their argument as to why they should be there.
Gran Turismo Sport is out very soon, so...
Yeah, they don't have as many cars. Actually, I think it's 182 cars in total on Project Cars 2, and it's 177 in Gran Turismo Sport. And Gran Turismo Sport does look the business, but Project Cars 2 is already out, and it does look good. It drives very, very well. In fact, it drives too well, and we come to my first gripe about Project Cars 2.
Too well?
Yeah. When you get these technical races, a lot of them aim for a certain degree of realism, yeah? And my problem with that is, it's the problem I had with, say, FIFA 16, where EA was trying to be very, very realistic with their football game. And I was sitting there thinking, I don't want realism. If I wanted realism, I'll go out and play football.
Okay.
I want this to have a certain arcadey element, a certain fun element. I don't want your through passes to be weighted in the way that a through pass in the real world would be weighted. I want to basically be able to score amazing goals, to pass amazingly well, to dominate my opponent, you know, to basically challenge other players and do it in an enjoyable way. I don't want to have to worry about real world physics.
You made it sound like you were going to go Conan on them there, but...
You understand what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
And this is what I mean.
Like Conan the Barbarian, by the way, not Conan the TV show host.
I'm never that skinny.
Yeah.
Anyway, Project Cars 2, when I say it drives too well, I mean it drives too well. It drives too much like a real-world car.
Twitchy.
Yeah, twitchy. It can be unresponsive. When you're traveling at high speeds, it tends to slide all over the place, and it's got that realistic element to it. But that's not something that I want in the driving game unless I'm playing F1. Do you see what I mean? I want a certain degree of arcadeness about it because the arcadeness makes it more fun. So I'm not saying you have to go the full Burnout route and so you have crash junctions and you can drive people off the roads and stuff like that. But Burnout is a lot more fun.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Burnout gives you that sensation of speed, especially Burnout 3. It's an amazing game, amazing racing game, and it's still, in my opinion, one of the best racing games ever made, right? And
I can't disagree with that.
Project Cars 2 is a cracking racing game. It's just because it has that, because they've gone for that realism, and they're purposefully aimed to be as realistic as possible, right? Slightly Mad Studios have aimed for that. And because they've aimed for that, it kind of alienates me a little bit.
Here's a question.
Yeah?
It's related to that, actually. Do you think because racing games aren't as popular as they used to be, they've redefined what they are and made them so... Well, they made the game so serious, that the game's taken themselves so seriously, that they've created the niche which they can't possibly box themselves out of?
Well, kind of, yeah, because it's no longer a racing game. It's a racing simulation.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? And this is the problem with technical races. When you get to a certain point, it stops being a game. And what you do with games, you play them. What you do with simulations?
I don't know.
You don't play simulations, do you?
You get stressed over them.
Yeah, it's more like work, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why stuff like Construction Vehicle Simulator and Flight Simulator and stuff like that, they have very niche audiences.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the thing. Racing games, especially technical races, and the thing is, I can take F1, Codemasters F1. Now, Codemasters know racing inside and out. They've been doing it for years, okay? I can take the F1 games that Codemasters do, and I can put them on a shelf just off to one side. Because when you play an F1 game, you know exactly what you're getting. You're getting a technical racer that is almost like a simulation. And if you want to play an F1 game, right, if you're into F1, and then you know exactly what you're getting. You're getting a racing game that is almost like a simulation because that's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the big difference between the F1 game and all of the other racing games. But the problem is, all of the other racing games are trying to be like the F1 games.
Okay.
Does that make sense? They're trying to do all sorts of things that the F1 games do. And I know that other types of racing also have those things, talking about balancing the suspension, the air pressure in the tyres, what tyres you have, managing your fuel, all sorts of things like that. I know that all of those technical details comes into other forms of racing, and not just F1. But they shouldn't basically take that to the extreme unless they're going to do a technical racer based around that form of racing. When you have multiple cars and multiple classes, like in Project Cars 2, right, then you want a certain amount of arcadeness. And the reason why I say that is because one of the modes in this, and probably the most fun mode in Project Cars 2, is where you could have about 4 different classes of car.
Open weight classes then.
It's like an open weight class for racing, and you've got like 15 other cars on the track. 15 cars on the track. And you can have, rally cars up against F1 cars, up against drift cars, up against cars from Daytona, and the Ferrari F40 and all sorts of things like that. So you got like this mixed bag of cars all on one circuit. And at that point, when you have a mode as ridiculous as that and as fun as that, you want a certain amount of arcadeness about it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because at the end of the day, if you're driving, I don't know, a Subaru Impreza designed for a rally up against an F1 car.
You do them in the corners.
Yeah, you do them in the corners, but you have to catch up to them first on the straight.
No, you just crashed into them in the corners.
Oh, yeah.
That's what,
yeah. No, it's not Burnout. We already established it's not Burnout.
I'm a bad person.
But yeah, you understand what I mean. You want a certain amount of arcadeness just to kind of level the playing field. Not only that, there is a certain problem with the AI in Project Cars too, in that the AI it's kind of aggressive and not aggressive, right? It's like a switch. It's supposed to be a slider, right? It's supposed to be a gradient. It's supposed to go, yes, I want the AI drivers to be this aggressive and no more than that.
So what you're trying to say is it's too consistent.
No, I'm saying it's too binary when it comes to aggression.
No, that's what I meant. It's too consistent. if I put the slider here, that means everybody is here.
Yeah. It is. It's too uniform, you mean? Yeah. It's too uniform. But the thing is, it's also too binary, so that if they are going to be aggressive, all of them are aggressive. And if you don't want them to be aggressive, you have to turn the aggression off completely.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
And the thing is, I set it so that they would only be about 10% aggressive, right? 10% aggressive, right? So very, very passive. And literally at the first corner, I was getting cars ganging up on me. It was like that survival mode from the old driver game on the PS1 where you had a tidal wave of police cars chasing you down San Francisco.
Okay.
So yeah, that is a problem. The AI is very, very twitchy. This is the thing. There are other issues as well. One of the other issues is that it's got glitches, but the glitches don't seem to happen during the races. And I could understand if during the races, especially when it's frenetic action, the glitches happened. But it doesn't happen there, and that's the most frustrating part.
So it happens in the menus and the settings?
Yes.
Ooh, that's awkward.
Do you see what I mean? You just go, hang on, I just changed the menu. Why has it gone back to that? It's done it again. Why are
just
you doing
when you
this?
got your setup right and it all goes squiffy.
It's like I'm just basically flicking through the menus and it freezes and then it glitches and then it moves on and then it freezes and glitches and moves on. I'm going, this doesn't happen in the game. This doesn't happen when I'm racing. Why is it happening on like the most basic part of the game?
So what you're saying is the menus are so complicated, it's more grueling on the engine than the actual car.
I don't know.
Motion. That's weird. That's really weird.
I know. Thing is,
so is it a good game though? That's the killer question. That's the important thing.
It's 100%.
Anybody wants to know.
Okay, it's 100% dedicated to simulation racing. Okay, and so on that aspect, it actually is very, very good. It's right up there with the Gran Turismos and with the Forzas, and even with the F1 games. It has a lot of technical details, and if you're a racing enthusiast, then you're going to love this game. You will have the seat, you will have the wheel, you'll have the pedals, and you'll probably even have a 3-screen setup.
Have you got a commission for F1? Because you mentioned them an awful lot.
I love the F1 game. You know I love the F1 game. And This is very, very good. The thing is, if I got tired of playing the F1 game and I wanted another racing game, at the moment I'd go play Project Cars 2, right? I don't know what Gran Turismo Sport is like yet, but I'll find out. But at the moment, Project Cars 2 is basically sitting at the top of the pile after I finish with F1. It's another technical racer, but it's a very different technical racer. Very, very different. It's got a whole heap of cars, so I could try all sorts of different cars. So there's endless possibilities for me to just sit down and try, a Pagani Zonda or a Ferrari F40 or a Lamborghini Aventador or something like that and just basically race it. It's got loads of tracks as well, and it's got loads of different track modes. It has a great career mode where you start off in the low ranks of racing. So you'll start off in kart or something like that, and then you'll work your way gradually up. And until you reach a certain point, stuff like F1 and that is actually locked. So you can't choose those as your starting options, which is great. It forces you to actually learn the game. It's a great thing that they've done approaching it like that. And the game itself, the graphics are superb. The sound is very, very good. The cars are a little bit whiny at times, but I think that's maybe my speakers and headphones rather than the cars.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, but in terms of the graphics, the game looks amazing. PS4 version of the game looks fantastic. I've seen this on a high-spec PC as well, and it looks bloody amazing. But there are those issues. Bonkers AI. It's as if you just, when you're driving and you've got the aggression just a little bit on, unless you got the slider all the way to 0, if you just got it on 1%, the AI goes totally Batman on you, right? As if you're the Penguin or the Joker or something like that, and every other car is Batman.
Yeah.
And the menu glitches are just annoying. I'll be honest, it doesn't need to be there. It's an oversight that could have easily been fixed. But even with those, this is still a cracking game. Well, rather, cracking simulation. Let's get it right. It's not a game. It is a simulation. And it's credit to Slightly Mad Studios because that's exactly what they're aiming for. And I think they've achieved it. So, yeah, Project Cars 2 is recommended from me if you're a racing enthusiast. But if you're just a normal kind of, you like driving games like Burnout and stuff like that, approach with kid gloves. and get yourself a wheel.
Yeah. So, that's Project Cars 2. Comment below, click that like button or subscribe. Click on some of the links on screen, including our Patreon or some of the video links. But until next time, I have been Rob.
And I've been Rob.
Thanks for watching.